Welcome. Masters are talking. Subscribe.
Welcome to our deep dive into the world of Empress Saimei. I was looking over the stuff you sent me
Right.
from the Nihongi.
Yeah.
All these chronicles of the early Japanese emperors and empresses.
Yeah. It's an incredible story, really.
And we're going to try to
Yeah.
unpack all that and
Empress Saimei's journey is just a winding one.
explore her life.
Imagine going
That's
from
pretty remarkable.
Empress Consort to Empress Dowager and then back to Empress again.
Yeah.
All in a time when women wielding power
Right.
were not exactly the norm.
Yeah, it's like a real-life Game of Thrones, but in 7th century Japan.
Right.
And we've got palace intrigue. We've
Yeah.
got
It's exciting.
controversial public works projects.
We have.
Military expeditions.
Those poems, especially the ones about the loss of her grandson,
Oh, yeah.
are incredibly moving.
Those are really, really something.
They offer us a glimpse into the human emotions that transcended her position and the times she
Yeah.
lived in.
Start at the beginning, I guess.
Okay.
You know,
Sounds good.
it might surprise some people to know that Empress Saimei wasn't born into this position of power.
Yeah,
It was really through her marriages.
that's right.
First to Prince Takemuku and then to Emperor Okinaga Terashi Hideronuka.
Exactly.
That she really began to
Navigate the intricate world of the Japanese court.
navigate this world.
Yeah. The Nihongi doesn't go into a ton of detail about court life.
Yeah.
But we can glean that it was a complex web of relationships, rituals, and power plays.
Right.
And for a woman, especially in that era, it must have been incredibly challenging to rise through the ranks.
Yeah. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube
Yeah,
while riding a unicycle.
absolutely.
So her first marriage gave her the title of princess, which, was a step up.
Okay.
But it was her marriage to Emperor Okinaga that really elevated her to this position
Elevated her status to Empress Consort.
of Empress Consort.
Uh-huh.
And,
Which put her in a position of significant influence.
right. But she didn't just stop there,
Nope.
as you know from your research.
This is where it gets good.
She eventually took the throne herself.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice.
So when Emperor Okinaga died in 654 CE,
Okay.
the throne passed to her stepson, Emperor Kotoku.
Right.
But upon his death,
Mm-hmm.
Empress Saimei, who was at that point the Empress Dowager,
Yeah.
stepped into the role of Empress in her own right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a bold move that set her apart as one of the most remarkable figures in Japanese history.
I mean, it really makes you wonder what kind of person she was.
Right.
It's not only
To navigate that world.
navigate that world, but then
And then to ascend to its highest position?
ascend to the highest position.
Yeah.
So we've got this woman
Right.
who has now
She's taken the reins of power.
taken the reins of power.
Uh-huh.
What does she do?
What does she do next?
Does she just kick back and enjoy the palace life?
Not exactly. Empress Saimei wasn't one to rest on her laurels.
Okay.
She launched ambitious projects and initiatives that reshaped the political and physical landscape of Japan.
Yeah.
For example, she decided to relocate the capital
Oh, wow.
and had stunning new palaces constructed,
Yeah.
including the lavish palace of Asuka no Wakamoto.
I mean, that seems like a pretty big undertaking
It was.
to just move an entire capital city.
It wasn't just about a change of scenery, though.
Yeah.
It was a symbolic act, a way for her to project her vision for Japan
Right.
and solidify her authority.
So it was more than just the...
And remember, this is 7th century Japan.
Right.
It's not like they had moving vans and professional organizers.
Right, talking about a logistical nightmare.
Right.
But the palace wasn't the only grand project she took on,
Right.
right? You also sent me some information about these massive public works projects, like digging canals and building walls.
These were huge undertakings, requiring a tremendous amount of resources and labor.
I bet.
And they generated quite a bit of buzz among the populace.
Yeah, I can't imagine that those projects were universally popular.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
The Nihongi actually records a mixed bag of reactions to these projects.
Okay.
Some people saw them as essential for Japan's growth and development, particularly when it came to trade and defense.
Right.
But others, especially those bearing the brunt of the labor, felt like it was a waste of resources.
Sure.
You know?
So what was the thinking behind all this?
Well, I think it was a combination of factors.
All right.
On one hand, these projects were a way for her to demonstrate her power
Okay.
and the authority of the central government.
Right.
But they also served practical purposes.
Right.
They helped to improve trade routes, enhance transportation, and even bolster defenses against potential threats, particularly from the Kingdom of Silla in Korea.
So she's thinking long-term.
I think so.
Trying to lay the foundation for a stronger, more prosperous Japan. Like if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, or in this case, dig a few canals.
Well, it's important to remember the historical context. This wasn't just about vanity projects.
Okay.
It was about ensuring the stability and security of the realm.
Right, but her ambitions weren't confined to just internal development.
No, they weren't.
Her reign also marked a period of significant military expansion,
That's right.
particularly towards the north. She launched this expedition against a people known as the Yemashi.
The Yemashi were indigenous people who lived in the northern parts of Honshu, the main island of Japan.
Okay.
They had their own distinct culture and way of life,
Right.
which often came into conflict with the expanding Japanese empire.
So we have this clash of cultures, right?
Yeah.
You've got this expanding Japanese empire encountering these Yemashi people.
Yeah, and the Nihongi offers a fascinating glimpse into this encounter. The text portrays the Yemashi as living in close harmony with nature, relying on hunting and gathering.
Right.
And they viewed the encroachment of the Japanese as a direct threat to their traditional ways of life and their very existence.
I can only imagine how unsettling that must have been for them.
Oh, absolutely.
To have your whole world just completely,
It would be.
turned upside down.
Yeah. It's resisted.
Did they resist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Initially, the Yemashi resisted fiercely,
Yeah.
but the Japanese forces, under the command of a general named Abano Omi, proved too powerful.
Right.
The Nihongi even describes this dramatic face-off between Abano Omi and a Yemashi leader named Omuka.
Oh, wow. So like a
Yeah.
one-on-one kind of
a showdown.
showdown thing.
Yeah, you can almost picture these two leaders from vastly different worlds meeting on the shores of Japan.
Wow.
Their cultures clashing, their fates hanging in the balance.
That's intense.
It is.
So what happened?
Well, Omuka, recognizing the might of the Japanese army, ultimately submitted to Empress Saimei's authority.
I mean, that must have been a
It was a turning point.
really heavy decision for him to make.
Yeah.
To surrender your autonomy for the sake of your people.
Well, it's a powerful moment captured in the Nihongi.
Right.
And it signifies a turning point in the history of the Yemashi people and the expansion of the Japanese Empire. But as we delve deeper into Empress Saimei's story, you'll see that her reign wasn't just marked by military victories and grand construction projects.
Right.
There's a human side to her as well.
Okay.
One that's revealed through her deep affection for her grandson, Prince Takaru.
Yeah, this is the part that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
As I was reading through all the material you sent me.
Yeah.
You can really feel the depth of her emotion.
Absolutely.
In the songs that she composed after his death.
It's raw.
It's like she poured all of her grief into those words.
Well, it's a reminder that no matter how powerful a person might be, they're still susceptible to the same human emotions of love and loss.
Absolutely.
Prince Takaru's death at such a young age, only 8 years old, deeply affected Empress Saimei.
Yeah.
The Nihongi describes her as being beside herself with grief.
Right.
And that grief found expression in her poetry.
The imagery in those poems is so striking.
It is.
Even in translation.
Yeah.
And one of them,
Yeah.
she talks about longing for a sign from him, saying, on the hill of Womure in Imaki,
Yeah.
if but a cloud arose plain to be seen,
Right.
why should I lament? It's like she's yearning for any indication of his continued existence.
Well, she uses powerful metaphors to express the depth of her sorrow.
Yeah.
She compares his youth to the young grass by the riverside.
Oh, wow.
And her longing for him to the unceasingly flowing water of the river Asuka.
Yeah.
It's a raw, unfiltered expression of a grandmother's love and loss.
And it's amazing how these poems written centuries ago
I know.
can still evoke such strong emotions in us today.
I think so.
It shows that these certain human experiences transcend time and culture.
For sure.
But as we know,
Yeah.
life, even for an empress,
Right.
doesn't stop for grief.
Right.
She had to continue ruling,
She did.
facing down challenges,
Right.
navigating these treacherous waters
Court politics.
of court politics.
And that's where things take an even more dramatic turn.
Oh, really?
Remember, we're talking about a time when omens and superstitions played a huge role in Japanese society.
Oh, yeah.
And as you read in the Nihongi Empress, Saimei's reign was marked by a series of unsettling incidents that were interpreted as signs of trouble brewing.
Oh, yeah, the omens.
The omens.
I gotta admit, that part of the Nihongi definitely gave me chills.
It's spooky.
So, like, what kind of omens are we talking about here?
Well, there was the incident where a fox suddenly bit off the end of a creeper being held by a laborer.
Okay.
Then there was the story of a dog carrying a dead man's hand into a shrine.
Ew. And perhaps most disturbingly, there were reports of fish dying in huge numbers in the province of Izumo.
I mean, that's just some pretty creepy incidents.
They are.
So how did people at the time interpret these events?
Well, they viewed them as signs from the gods, warnings that something was amiss, that the natural order was disrupted.
Okay.
Remember, this was a society deeply connected to the rhythms of nature and the spiritual realm.
Right.
Such events were taken very seriously.
So I imagine they created quite a bit of anxiety.
Oh, I'm sure.
And uncertainty.
Yeah.
Did Empress Saimei, address these omens publicly?
You know, the Nihongi doesn't explicitly mention her response to these specific events.
Okay.
But we do know that her later years were marked by an attempted coup.
Oh, wow.
A plot to overthrow her and seize power.
A coup attempt?
Yeah.
Who was behind it?
Well, the main instigator was her stepson, Prince Arima.
Okay.
It seems he wasn't exactly thrilled with Empress Saimei's leadership.
This is a classic.
Especially her lavish spending on those public works projects we discussed earlier. Oh, so a classic power struggle?
Classic.
Disgruntled stepson wants to take the throne for himself?
It's a tale as old as time, isn't it?
Right.
But what makes it even more interesting is the role that superstition played in the whole affair.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, as they were plotting their move,
Yeah.
An interesting thing happened. A leg rest seemingly out of nowhere broke of itself.
Yeah.
That's ominous.
Suki, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that kind of sign.
Well, both Prince Arima and his co-conspirator, an official named Soga no Akaya no Omi, took it as a bad omen and initially backed off from their plan.
Okay.
But as you can imagine, ambition and the desire for power can be pretty persuasive.
So they went ahead with it despite the warning.
They did.
Okay.
But there's a twist.
What's that?
The Nihongi suggests that Soga no Akaya no Omi, perhaps playing both sides, betrayed Prince Arima and tipped off Empress Saimei about the plot.
Ooh, double-crossing and palace intrigue.
I know, right?
I love it.
The best. So how did Empress Saimei react to this betrayal?
Well, she was, as you might expect, not amused.
Yeah.
And she wasn't one to sit idly by while someone plotted against her.
So what did she do?
She took swift and decisive action.
Okay.
She had Prince Arima arrested along with some of his co-conspirators and brought to her at the hot springs of Ki.
Arrested at the spa.
Right.
That's awkward.
A little bit.
So did he confess?
Well, when questioned, he pleaded ignorance.
Okay.
Claiming, heaven and Akai know,
Yeah.
I do not at all understand.
Right.
Whether that was a genuine claim or a desperate attempt to save himself is open to interpretation.
But either way, it didn't work right.
It did not.
Because I'm guessing justice in 7th century Japan wasn't known for its leniency.
No, it was not.
So what happened?
Well, Prince Arima was strangled at the Fujishiro acclivity on Empress Saimei's orders.
Oh, wow.
Other conspirators met similar fates, either executed or banished.
That's a pretty clear message.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Empress Saimei.
Don't cross.
But it must have been a difficult decision.
It must be.
For her to make.
Yeah.
To order the death of her stepson.
Absolutely.
It really highlights these tough choices that leaders have to make. Especially when it comes to, matters of power and security.
Right, exactly.
But the story doesn't end there.
It does not. As you know, Empress Saimei's reign eventually came to an end.
It did.
And the Nihongi recounts her final days with a sense of poignancy, weaving together the themes of lost mortality and the enduring power of love.
So we've got this backdrop of unsettling omens, a thwarted rebellion, and a ruler nearing the end of her life.
Yeah.
What does the Nihongi tell us about her final days?
Well, it paints a rather somber picture. Her health began to decline, and those unsettling omens we discussed earlier seemed to weigh heavily on the minds of the people.
Yeah.
It was as if the natural world was reflecting the approaching end of an era.
It's a pretty powerful image.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the boundaries between the physical
I think so.
and spiritual worlds are blurring.
Yeah.
Did Empress Saimei herself believe in the power of these omens?
You know, the Nihongi doesn't explicitly state her personal beliefs.
Right.
But given the cultural context, it's safe to assume she was at least aware of their significance.
Yeah.
Remember, even her stepson was initially swayed by that broken leg rest incident.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how superstition and belief played such a prominent role in their decision-making.
It adds another layer to the story.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a reminder that history isn't just about, like, dates and battles.
It's about people.
It's about, like, the beliefs.
And
the values that shaped people's actions and perception.
People's actions. Yeah. And in her case, these beliefs were just so, like, deeply intertwined with the fabric of daily life.
Right.
Even her death in 661 CE, after reigning for a second time for 7 years, was marked by this really poignant moment that speaks to, like,
the enduring power of love and loss.
It does.
Oh, you mean the story of her funeral procession?
Yes.
The one where, like...
where her grandson's spirit seems to follow her?
Her grandson's spirit is, like, following her?
Right.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Okay.
As the procession was returning to the capital,
the
Nihongi recounts this moment where Prince Takuru's spirit, having come to an anchor in the same place, expresses his longing for the Empress.
Wow.
He sings, "Longing as I do for a sight of thee, now that I have arrived here, even thus do I long desirous of a sight of thee."
Oh.
It's a beautiful and haunting image.
It's like even in death, she wasn't alone.
Right.
Like that connection with her grandson transcended the physical realm.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a touching reminder that human emotions like love and grief can endure even the most profound transitions.
Yeah.
And as we reach the end of our deep dive into Empress Saimei's life, I think it's important to step back and consider what her story reveals about leadership ambition and the human condition.
So as we wrap up this exploration of Empress Saimei's life, what are some of the key takeaways?
Well, firstly, I think her story really challenges our assumptions about women in power in ancient societies. Here we have a woman who not only ascended to the throne, but ruled twice, navigating complex political landscapes and leaving a lasting mark on Japanese history.
Right.
It's a reminder that women have always played vital roles in shaping our world, often exceeding the limitations placed upon them by cultural norms.
She really broke the mold, didn't she?
She did.
And what about the challenges she faced?
Yeah.
What can we learn from her about leadership and resilience?
Well, her reign highlights the complexities of leadership and the difficult choices rulers have to make. She dealt with rebellions, threats from neighboring kingdoms, and the constant pressure of maintaining order and stability.
It sounds like she was like a...
Yeah, her story teaches us that true leadership isn't about wielding absolute power, but about navigating uncertainty, making tough decisions, and adapting to ever-changing circumstances.
Master strategist and diplomat. But her story also reminds us that, like, leaders are human beings too.
They are.
Right. They experience the same joys and sorrows.
The Nihongi doesn't just recount her political and military achievements. It also offers glimpses into her personal life, her love for her family, her grief over their loss.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful individuals are subject to the same human emotions and vulnerabilities.
Right.
It's what makes her story so relatable even after all these centuries.
Yeah, it's this blend of, like, power and vulnerability that makes her such a fascinating figure.
I agree.
So as we conclude our deep dive, what's the so what factor here?
The so what?
What can we in the 21st century learn from a 7th century Japanese empress?
Well, her story offers several valuable lessons. It encourages us to question our assumptions about the past and to recognize the significant contributions of women throughout history. It reminds us that leadership is a complex and multifaceted endeavor that requires strength, resilience, and adaptability.
And perhaps most importantly, it encourages us to, like, see beyond the historical narrative.
Yes, and to connect with the human stories that lie at the heart of history.
It's been an incredible journey exploring her world.
It has.
Empress Saimei's story is a testament to the power of human resilience, the intricacies of leadership, and the enduring impact of individual lives on the course of history.
And for our listener, I hope this deep dive has sparked a deeper interest in Empress Saimei and the rich tapestry of ancient Japanese history.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning and keep uncovering those hidden stories that connect us all.
I like that.
Until next time.